Hey friends. Well, as I'm sure anybody could tell you at this point, there are quite a lot of debates going on in America. What should we do about global warming? Should America adopt Medicare for all? And why is it that every night when I close my eyes I see Grimace from McDonald's staring at me? But sometimes it's more important to look at the less talked about issues that are still plaguing our society. Over the past few weeks I've been learning a lot about environmental injustice, which notably encompasses environmental racism. I think that Peter Beach put it best when he defined environmental racism as
a form of systemic racism whereby communities of color are disproportionately burdened with health hazards through policies and practices that force them to live in proximity to sources of toxic waste such as sewage works, mines, landfills, power stations, major roads, and emitters of airborne particulate matter.
Since a lot of corporations and government entities don't really like dealing with those pesky human rights cases in court, they just put the toxic facilities in poor socioeconomic areas that are much less likely to fight them on it. The term Superfund Site appears in a vast amount of reports detailing the contamination of areas by hazardous waste being left openly exposed or improperly managed. As of 2019, estimates show that 70% of waste sites in the United States are located proximately to low-income housing, with over 327 of these Superfund sites being vulnerable to flooding caused by the eroding climate conditions. It's like if you came home to find your bed full of dog poop because your neighbor decided you weren't very likely to take him to court over it. These sites are often the cause of issues such as exposure to fine particulate matter and may be influenced by an individual's proximity to landfills. This was the case for a Chicago woman named Hazel Johnson. And, being a strong independent woman from Chicago, you can probably imagine she didn't like finding dog poop in her bed very much. Beginning in the 1960s, Johnson had moved with her family to work and live in the area of Chicago dedicated to black veterans. It was named the Altgeld Gardens. And during this period, Johnson's husband died of lung cancer, and she witnessed her 7 children gradually develop both respiratory issues and flesh abnormalities. Ultimately realizing that it was the waste from nearby dumps and sewage farms that was the leading cause of the residents' illnesses, she dedicated her time to the environmental justice movement and, nearly 20 years later, convinced the mayor of Chicago to visit Altgeld Gardens. Upon seeing the condition of the area, Mayor Harold Washington vowed to ban all future landfills from being located near the neighborhood. While the story of Hazel Johnson is inspiring, unfortunately it doesn't mean that environmental injustice was solved by the end of the late 1980s. For a more modern and local story, one may turn to the controversial decision surrounding the Nebraska Supreme Court and their allowance of the building of the Keystone XL oil pipeline. While many state residents have experienced concerns over the possibility of malfunctions leading to expansive environmental damage from crude oil leaking into the soil and natural waterways, the aspect that links this pipeline to our topic is how it affects Native American tribes. The proposed route of the construction travels through several areas of protected land that had previously been declared as independent from the state government's control. The pipeline is estimated to be capable of transporting approximately 830,000 barrels of oil per day from the oil sand regions of Canada to the Gulf Coast of the United States. Notably, according to the leaked documentation, 3 similar pipelines in Michigan, Wyoming, and Arkansas have all suffered from catastrophic failures that have resulted in devastating oil pollution. So after what's been discussed so far, a lot of people are probably asking the question, what's being done about all of this? Much of the activism surrounding the environmental justice movement pertains to the dissemination of information in hopes of garnering support from both citizens and lawmakers, as well as some efforts being made to mitigate the damages that are currently being caused. This focus, while generally beneficial, does not always give a clear path of action. For instance, the coronavirus has drawn attention to air pollutants due to the nature of the virus being airborne. In Louisiana, there's a strip of land following a river that has been nicknamed Cancer Alley. This is in reference to the cancer development rate that is up to 50 times greater than the general United States average. This area is now seeing a disproportionately high number of deaths from the coronavirus as the population in the area are disproportionately immunocompromised. In many ways, while the public perceptions and activism have increased, the federal government has enacted policies that have worsened the effect of this pollution. As if to try to cure a grease fire by dumping water onto it, in March of 2020, the Trump administration suspended enforcement of many environmental laws previously monitored by the EPA. This means that there will be virtually no oversight to prevent chemical companies and other toxic waste facilities from relaxing their anti-pollution measures in hopes of increasing profit. While this rift between the needs of the people and the decisions by bureaucratic entities may be concerning, it is important to keep in mind that these elected officials are ultimately subject to the will of those that they represent. Environmental injustice is an intersectional issue with many different causes and effects throughout society. But I hope that this video has helped introduce the topic to at least one person that'll be interested in looking into it a bit more. In the description I've linked several sources along with some summaries for those of you who want to find out a bit more about the topic. Thank you for watching, and remember, stay human.